Have you ever heard of a plane landing perfectly, only to randomly floor the throttle on one engine while rolling down the runway? I know, sounds impossible. But that's exactly what happened in Hong Kong. The reason behind it is one of the strangest accident mysteries of recent years. Today, we're diving into the bizarre case of UAE 9788, a Boeing 747 that touched down normally, then suddenly veered off the runway like it had a mind of its own. This one will leave you shaking your head. Welcome back to Crash and Shocks, where we uncover the stories behind aviation's most unbelievable moments. Let's get into it. The normal landing that wasn't so? Picture this: our story begins like any other routine landing. A massive Boeing 747 is gliding toward the runway, steady as a mountain drifting through the clouds. The crew is relaxed, checklists are done, and everything looks exactly the way a normal landing should look. They lower the landing gear. They set the flaps. They bring the throttles back. Smooth, calm, almost boring. The kind of landing pilots love. But just a few feet above the runway, where the plane should be settling into that gentle touchdown, something strange happens. And not the kind of strange you notice right away, more like that tiny shiver in the air that warns you a storm is sneaking up, because at the exact moment, the pilots begin to flare. One engine, the last one on the right wing, decides it's not happy with the plan. No warning. No clues. Just mischief brewing quietly in a metal heart. And as the wheels approach the pavement, the crew is seconds away from discovering that this will not be the calm landing they expected. This is the moment the 747 decides to write its own script. A normal landing? Not anymore. When the 747 decided to go row-wee, now here, it's where the story stops being routine and starts tilting sideways. Just as the wheels are about to kiss the runway, the pilots sense something is off. The aircraft feels wrong, a little too buoyant, a little too eager to stay in the air. Then it hits them. One engine, engine 4, has suddenly gone to full power. On its own, imagine the entire aircraft wanting to slow down and settle, while this one rebellious engine decides, nope, we're going flying again. 747 jerks sideways. The nose begins to lift. The landing that was seconds away is now dissolving like sand under a wave. The pilots are confused. Nobody touched the throttle. Nobody commanded more power. Yet the thrust lever is moving forward as if an invisible hand is shoving it. They try to counteract it. They try to fight it. But the aircraft is already committed to a climb. Passengers, if they were on board, would have felt the plane suddenly tilt upward. Engines roaring like they'd just initiated a takeoff roll. But this wasn't a takeoff, and it definitely wasn't supposed to be happening. On the ground, the sight must have been surreal. A jumbo jet almost landing, then vaulting back into the sky without a word. This wasn't a go-around. This wasn't planned. This was the moment the 747 went rogue. How did engine 4 suddenly go full thrust? So the big question hits the investigation team like a puzzle piece dropped from the sky. Why did engine 4 suddenly slam into full takeoff power without anyone touching it? When they dug through the data, the mystery got weirder. The other 3 thrust levers behaved normally. Only engine 4's lever jumped forward a sudden, unnatural shove. The pilots swore nobody touched it. The flight data recorder agreed. So investigators took apart the auto-throttle mechanism, piece by piece. And buried deep inside, they found the culprit, a tiny fractured metal component. Nothing fancy, nothing electronic, just a small sliver that cracked quietly, invisibly. And that crack allowed the thrust lever to slip into full power. Imagine a hinge snapping, and suddenly a door flies open with no one touching it. That's exactly what this engine did. The worst part? There were no warnings telling the pilots what was happening. The mechanism broke, the engine surged, and the plane sprinted down the runway like it wanted to take off again. This one tiny fracture turned a routine landing into a full-blown emergency. And nobody knew until the investigation peeled back the layers. It's the return, the risk, and the runway that wouldn't wait now. The plane is climbing away, shaking off a landing that almost was, The auto throttle is disconnected, but trust in the aircraft. Fragile, they're heavy, very heavy, still filled with fuel, still in landing configuration, still dealing with an aircraft that just threw a tantrum. Air traffic control clears the skies instantly. Do you need assistance? ATC asks. The captain doesn't hesitate. We need to land as soon as possible. Now begins the careful ballet of recovering a misbehaving giant. Flaps slowly. Speed, stabilize. Engines, monitor everything. Aircraft, keep it calm, no sudden surprises. They line up for a new approach. But the winds are changing, because of course they are. The captain brings the aircraft toward the runway with the focus of someone threading a needle through shaking hands. Hold it steady. Don't drift. Ease it down. The wheels touch. A heavy, grateful thud. Then comes the fight to stop. Brakes glowing. Spoilers thumping open. Reverse thrust booming, though engine 4 still isn't giving its full effort. The aircraft slows, and finally crawls to a stop. The emergency crews surround it. The pilots finally uncoil their nerves. Everyone survives, and all because of a piece of metal the size of your fingertip. The lessons, the fix, and why it should never happen again. When investigators finally understood what happened, aviation didn't shrug and move on. It upgraded, it adapted, it evolved. Lesson 1. No part is too small to matter. The faulty component was redesigned with stronger materials and new safeguards. A crack like this can't silently start a runaway engine anymore. Lesson 2. Crew training is priceless. The pilots handled a nightmare scenario with calm precision. Their quick thinking turned a near disaster into a safe landing.
Lesson 3.
Auto throttle systems got smarter. Software updates now detect runaway thrust, warn the crew immediately, and limit engine power when something looks suspicious. Lesson 4. Maintenance procedures expanded that lifetime reliable component. Now it gets inspected, tested, and monitored. Lesson 5. Aviation shares everything. The findings spread globally, so every airline, every maintenance team, and every pilot could learn from it. This incident didn't just end safely, it made the entire aviation world safer. That's the beauty of aviation. Every scare becomes a lesson. Every lesson becomes protection. Every improvement becomes the reason millions of people fly safely every day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy real aviation mysteries, shocking incidents, and unbelievable close calls, stay connected. More gripping stories are coming soon.